Hey everyone, Ben's here, and this is going to be another modding guide. Today we're going to focus on UV mapping and texturing for low poly modeling specifically. First off, my voice is going to sound like shit today. I've been a little sick, but we'll get through it. And today we're going to be creating the Volta PPK, famous 007 weapon, and I'm going to show you step by step the process of recreating this as a low poly model. And the first thing you want to do is get a reference image. And this is not only important to use for, scaling and sizing, but also the target colors we want, what kind of texturing we're going for when we create our model. Now, I'm not going to go into the specifics of modeling everything because it's very application specific. Today we're using Maya, but you can just as well use Blender or any other application for that matter. Anything that exports an FBX that you can import into Unity. But here we have our preset model here. This is created by Tentacle Boss from Discord, and there are a couple important details. You'll see the origin is set at the muzzle. You can see our scale. This one major unit here is 1 foot, so the item is scaled pretty realistically. Normally for low poly you scale the smaller stuff like pistols a little larger and larger weapons like MGs or assault rifles a little smaller. It just looks a little better and fits the hands a little better in game. And you'll see our translations and rotations are at 0, our scale is at 1, and you do that by freezing your transformations, and that just allows it to play with Unity a little better. And delete some history here. I think it's under edit, delete all by type, delete history, and yeah, it just cleans up some messy history if you have any. Now, let's go back and try to create a texture map for this weapon. And first off, you're going to want to select a base color, and we might use this color here for the base color of our gun, of our texture map. So select your eyedropper tool and go to your texture map. I picked 256 by 256 because that should be plenty of detail for this model specifically. And we're going to want to fill this with our base color, our foreground color here. And next we're going to want to select specific colors here for bringing out the details. And we're going to create a little texture atlas that we can use for coloring these details. Now here we might want to select this highlight color here, this background darker color here for the switch, the safety switch, maybe even pick out this red safety button, and maybe the color of this handle, this grip. First let's start off with that and create a square, maybe in our top left here. There, that should be fine. And fill that with our foreground color. So here we have some useful colors, and now let's try to figure out how we're going to map this all out. So obviously we have our main barrel here. We'll probably put some kind of highlight with the safety in the back here. There's also going to be an ejection chamber on the other side, on the right side of the gun. That's not rendered here, so we'll kind of just eyeball that out. And we're going to need the handle here. For low poly, we don't want to use angles like this in our texture maps. You can see, if we zoom in, that we don't want these stair step patterns. They look awful in game, especially at low resolution or low poly. So we're going to want to use straight edges, and I'm going to show you how to make that look good in game, because you can see on our model our handle is angled. So don't we need to have some kind of angle texture map? And that's not true, and I'll show you how. For that, that'll come later. But for now, let's try to map out how we're going to do things. Now, obviously, we can't do a fully mirrored example for this gun because again, the ejection chamber is on the right, the safety switch is on the left, so it can't be exactly mirrored, but there is a way to simplify things a little. Now, first we'll create this highlight running all the way through the gun. Now, let's create another rectangle here. And you just kind of have to eyeball it, really. And again, we can use our atlas to pick that out and fill it. This side we'll use for the left side of the gun, and this side we'll use for the right side of the gun. It'll be clear in a little bit, I think. Actually, let's make this a little longer. Okay, we'll make that go all the way through. Now on the left side of the gun, we're going to have a safety switch on the back. And on the other side, we're going to have our ejection port. So we have our ejection port and our safety switch, and now we just need our handle. So let's look at our reference image, and of course we have our brown handle here. Again, we just want to use a right angle for that. That's it. Okay, and let's fill it with our color here, our foreground color. And now I think that's pretty much it. Let's see if there's any other details we want on our gun. Oh, we do need a square for the actual grip, the pistol trigger. For that, we'll just use our black color here. Again, things don't have to be exact, and I'll show you why it doesn't really matter later on when we actually do the UV mapping against this texture map. So we're going to want to fill that with black color. And I think that's pretty much it. Now let's see. Oh, we also need our, let's see, our muzzle. So we'll create another square for that. You can use shift to make a square. And again, fill it with the same thing. Now this looks pretty random, I'll admit. But once we do our texture mapping, it'll all kind of come together. So we'll save this out. Here's our PPK texture. Now let's try to import that. Here we have our Lambert 1 material. We're going to use a file input for that. Let's locate that. It should be under documents. Okay. Where's our texture map? Here. Now again, nothing is mapped out. It's going to look like garbage initially. So let's create an automatic texture map for this and try to edit this nonsense into something that makes sense. Okay, so let's move everything out first of all. Okay, and then first we're going to want to move, okay, these gun items. We're going to want to rotate that. Here is the left side, here is the right side, I believe. If we mix things up or they're reversed, we can fix that later. So you can kind of see what I'm going with here. Now you might say we go off the map here, but we're gonna fix that soon, don't worry. So let's take a look at this. Actually, I want these to be perfectly aligned, so we can use snap to grid. Snap to grid. Okay. And we're going to want to separate these out because these will be using a separate area of the texture map. So I think we can select the edges we want to cut, and we can cut these edges specifically. And okay. Now we have the separate handles. Okay, and we can put these in the same spot by grid snapping. Let's flip this. Modify, flip, cross horizontal. And actually we can cut this edge too, because we want this handle, the trigger, to be separate from the handle. Cut. Okay, good. So we're going to want this handle around here. We're going to want this trigger around here. Okay, let's see how we can fix this up. Now, we want these UVs at the top to be exactly at the top pixel. And for low poly, if you get this kind of dithering effect, or I should say filtering, you're going to want to turn off, I guess, the filtering on here, if I can find it. Unfiltered, there we go. So that way it will render pixel perfect. If we turn grid snapping off. I think there's something to turn on pixel snapping. Good. So now that's exactly at the top. We can move this at the bottom. And these don't really matter. So you can see it's kind of working in game. We have our ejector, we have our safety. Now let's finish the rest up. We'll do the handle first. But here we can see our handle and our trigger has, angled textures, but without any aliasing. Now a few more steps to clean this up. We're going to put the rest of this stuff, shrink it, put it anywhere randomly in our texture map. It's all going to be the base color. We need our muzzle here. Let's try to find which one that is. Okay. And there you have it. Here's our pretty basic model for a PPK. Now again, it's not perfect, but it's a start, and you can add more details, customize the sights a little more, or actually we can move this handle up a bit more, I think. So let's open up our UV editor. And again, you can just delete your history, go to export, and yeah, you don't need to export any of this junk. Animation, again, optional. We're not doing character models. And make sure your units are set to automatic at 1.0 scale factor. And you can export your model here. And that's it. And I hope this gave you a little insight into low poly modeling and UV mapping. I'll post this on our modding guide and our resources page so you can look it up anytime. And yeah, thanks for watching. More later. See you guys.